Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We are at part 3 of stepping into your divine consciousness. Now, if you're watching this video right now, man, I greatly appreciate you. If you can like, share, and subscribe, man, from the bottom of my heart, man, I would really appreciate that. That would really help me out a lot. I think at the time of this video right now, I have about 55 subscribers. And hey, I'm grateful for all 55 of y'all. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all are the reason why I continue to put out this content. Y'all are the motivation behind me continuing to do this, right? And I appreciate every single last one of y'all, and I promise not to let you down. I hope that my videos inspire you to want to step into your divine consciousness. I hope my videos inspire you to want to live in your success or be on your path to success. I hope my videos inspire you to want to be the best version of yourself, because that's all I want to do. All I want to do is be an inspiration to you. That's it. When you watch my videos, I want you to leave saying, dang, I think I want to be a better person. I think everything that I dream, all my goals, all my aspirations, I think I want to do them. Matter of fact, I am going to do them. I'm going to bring all that into physical reality, and I'm going to live in my heaven right now. I'm not finna wait. I'm finna live in my heaven right now. And once again, man, I appreciate you. I thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe, man. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, part 3, stepping into your divine consciousness. We are talking about the subconscious mind, understanding the subconscious mind and how to rewire or reprogram your subconscious mind, right? Now, like I told you in part 2, this is the hardest part. Out of all the parts I'm finna drop into stepping into your divine consciousness, this part right here, part number 3, this is probably the hardest part. So you need to get out your pen and you need to get out your paper so you can take notes. Don't watch this video thinking you finna retain all this information and be able to do the no. You need to get you out some pen and some paper. You need to take notes. And then you need to go back and rewatch this video again, because it is a lot of information that I'm about to be giving out. Y'all see, I got my notes. I got my note cards, because this is a lot of information and a lot of game that I'm finna speak in this video, man. So make sure that you take notes. Now, before I get into it, let me re-jog your memory, right? Let me do a quick overview of part 1 and part 2 so you could kind of catch up to what we doing and where we going with this, right? So in part 1, right? Remember in part 1, we broke part 1 down into a A and a B, right? Part 1, A, you have to deeply want it. You have to deeply want to step into your divine consciousness. You have to deeply want to be the best version of yourself. You have to deeply want to make a change in your life. Nobody else can want it but you. You have to want it deep down, because if you don't want it deep down, there's no reason for you to try to do it, because you didn't even have commitment from the beginning. You don't even deeply want it. So there's no point of you to even try if you don't deeply want it. That's why that's A. B, remember we said we had to visualize, right? Not only do we have to visualize, but we have to visualize our why, visualize our purpose, visualize our dreams, visualize our goals, visualize our aspiration, visualize us living in those dreams, living in those goals, us living in our fulfillment, right? Feeling the joy, feeling the excitement, feeling the gratitude, visualize you coming over obstacles, visualizing you overcoming challenges. All of these things you want to visualize in present tense, right? And you want to write it down in your journal or record yourself saying your vision out loud in present tense. Because when you go back and reread or you go back and rewatch, it reinforces the commitment that you have for the vision of your life. It reinforces the commitment to the destiny that you set for your life. That's why you want to write it down or record yourself saying it out loud in present tense. And we also said that we have to be in alignment, right? We said the mind, the spirit, right? Your choices, your behavior, your habits, right? Your emotions, your beliefs, and your thoughts and your energy all have to align with that vision, right? That's what we talked about in part 2. And we said to reinforce those things to align with our vision. We talked about the 3 pillars of execution, which is discipline, consistency, and persistency, right? And we said that discipline aligns the spirit and the mind, right? We said consistency aligns those good choices, those good behaviors, and those good habits, right? And we said persistency aligns those beliefs, those emotions, and those thoughts, right? And we said energy was just going to follow suit with the rest when everything is aligned together, right? And in the course of you doing all that, right, we said we're going to gain, we're going to gain self-trust, self-discipline, and self-courage, right? That's everything that we kind of talked about in part 1 and part 2. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch part 1 and part 2, because I talk about it in a little bit more details. That way you could kind of understand where I'm going with this. Now that we're in part 3, right? We have to understand about the subconscious mind. If you don't understand this, what you vision, your destinies, your goals, your aspirations, your dreams, everything that you want to do in life, it's not going to come into fruition unless you take control of your subconscious mind, right? And I'm finna break all this down so you can understand. And I'm gonna break it down slow. I'm gonna hold your hand and walk with you while I break this down. So if you can stay with me, right? And just stay along as I try to explain this to you, because like I said, it is a lot of information. So I'm gonna break it down a little bit at a time. Now, before we get deep into the subconscious mind, let's talk about the mind in whole, right? Let's talk about the mind in whole. Now, when you think of the word mind, and people usually speak of the mind, they say it in a singular form, M-I-N-D. You don't usually hear minds with an S at the end. You only hear really mind. Well, to tell you this, the mind breaks down into 2 parts, right? There's really 2 parts to the mind, right? And that is the conscious mind, and that is the subconscious mind, right? So let's talk about the conscious mind. In order for you to understand the subconscious mind, you need to understand how the mind works in whole and understand the conscious mind as well. So basically, and you see I got my board already written out, ready to go. Y'all see? Okay, so the conscious mind is basically the mind where you think. Simple. This is the mind where you think. Now let me break it down in more details, right? This is the mind where you think, your critical thinking. This is your logic, right? Your valid reasoning, right? This is your logic, comes from the conscious mind. Your willpower. Your willpower comes from the conscious mind. Your imaginations, visualizations, wishes, and desires all come from your conscious mind. Think about it like this. When you think, oh, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a police officer. I want to be a nurse. I want to do this. That is your conscious mind having those thoughts, having those wishes and desires. That is coming from the conscious part of the mind. Your choice making, your immediate choice making. I think I want the red apple. I think I want the orange. I think I want this. I think I want that. All the choice making comes from the conscious part of the mind, because this is the part of the mind where you think. Your goal setting, your planning, your short-term memory, all that comes from the thinking part of the mind. Your thinking part of the mind, which is the conscious mind, also observes and analyzes constantly. And we're going to come back to this. Observes and analyze constantly. We're going to come back to this, right? And then on the conscious mind is where your 5 senses are connected. Now, this is going to make it make more sense, right? When you smell something, you go, "Dang, that smell like that's." As soon as you think, "Oh, that smell like," that's the conscious mind. As soon as oh, that smell like fried chicken. That's your conscious mind that is thinking that. When you hear that, you hear that? That sound like fireworks. That's your conscious mind that is thinking. When you see that over there? What that is? That look like a plane. That is your conscious mind. When you feel, when you get it, when you feel, when you take, oh, that feel like, oh, this tastes like, all of that comes from the thinking part of the mind, right? Now, I like to call this, and you see I got it written up here, the computer or the user, right? And this is all gonna make sense in a minute. I like to call this part of the mind the computer or the user, the thinking part of the mind, right? Now, you only use this part of the mind less than 10% of the time. When it comes to your actions, your behaviors, and all around function, you only use this part of the mind less than 10% of the time. You don't even use this part of the mind that much. Hardly at all. Everything you do comes from the subconscious mind. Now let's get into the subconscious mind real quick. We're finna break this down. Let's get into the subconscious mind real quick, because the subconscious mind is what controls your reality. That's not gonna make sense right now, but it will. I bet you it will by the end. The subconscious mind controls your reality, right? Because the subconscious mind is where your habits and behaviors are. This is where your habits and behaviors are, in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind also is where your beliefs are, where you believe, right? Your subconscious mind is where your emotions and your feelings, right? Your subconscious mind is where your fears are, your long-term memory, your values, your reactions, your thoughts, your intuition, the way you perceive, your perception, your traumas, all of your experience, and heavy on the ones that have emotional impact. All of your experiences, but heavy on the ones with emotional impacts, what we later on will call traumas, right? All of these things are in your subconscious mind, and you don't even know that you use your subconscious mind automatically. You use it automatically. When you get up in the morning and you go in that kitchen, you just get up, your alarm go off, you get up, you go to the kitchen, you make you a cup of coffee, you go scroll on your phone, you go do this. It's the same routine every morning. You put your clothes on, you drive the same way to work, you walk in the same way. All that is based off of habits and behaviors from the subconscious mind. You don't have to think for you to do these things. There's no thinking for you to do these things. These things just happen automatic. They happen automatic. That's why this is called the program. See, your conscious mind is the computer, but this is the program that is running on that computer. This is the program. This is your values. This is your code of ethic. This is how you all around function. Your actions, your behaviors, and all around functions comes from the subconscious mind, right? I hope this is making sense to you. So basically, one more time, this is the thinking mind where you think. This is the mind where the program is, where your habits lies, your behavior lies, your beliefs lies, emotions, feelings, thoughts, intuition, and perception. This is your regular everyday person. The way you function comes from the subconscious mind. And you do these things automatic without you even realizing it. You blink subconsciously. You don't even be realizing you're blinking. You breathe. When you breathe, you don't even realize you're breathing because you're doing it subconsciously. It's out of habit. You could be nervous and start biting your nails, and you don't even realize that you biting your nails until you consciously realize that you biting your nails. You could be subconsciously biting your nails, and you don't realize it until you consciously realize it. And be like, oh, I'm biting my nails. I need to stop. Well, it's so much embedded in your subconscious mind, you just do it automatic without you even knowing. It's almost like when you're driving a car. When you drive in a car and you start thinking about other stuff and you start doing other things, right? And then you come back like, oh man, I hope I didn't run no red lights or anything like that. You didn't run no red lights or no stop signs or nothing like that, because as soon as you took your mind off of your driving, your subconscious mind went into effect. You drove so much that your subconscious mind just automatically took over, which gives you the ability to think, listen to music, rap, do all this at the same time as driving. That is how the subconscious mind works. It is your program, right? So I hope that makes sense. Like, I'm trying to break it down to you as best as I can. So I hope that y'all can understand the difference between the two, right? And like I said, you use this part of the mind 90 to 95% of the time. You use this part of the mind 90 to 95% of the time, right? And I know what you're asking. Why should I learn about this? Why learning about the subconscious mind is important to me stepping into my divine consciousness? Why learning about the subconscious mind is important for me wanting to live in my destiny, wanting to live in my fulfillment, wanting to live in the best version of me. Why is this important? Well, you need to learn this because your subconscious mind controls your reality, right? Your visualizations, your wishes, your desires, your dreams, your aspirations, everything that you visualize that I told you to write down in part 1, when I told you to visualize your why and what your purpose is and write it down and record it in present tense. Remember when I said do that? Well, that vision that you wrote down and recorded out loud, that visualization has to compete with your subconscious mind. That visualization has to compete with your subconscious mind. And that's why this part is very, 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 very important, because your visualization is not going to come into physical reality unless you get control over this, unless you reprogram this. Now, I'm going to get deeper and deeper and deeper into this, but I first have to explain the difference between the two and how the mind works in whole, so you can understand where I'm going with this. So once again, this is your thinking mind. This is where you think. This is the program. This is who you really are right here. This is the program, right? This is who you really are. So I'm finna erase this part. Let me erase this part real quick. Hold on real quick. All right, y'all, we back. I had to erase this side of the board because I'm finna put some more stuff on the side of this board. But y'all see I got written up here, conscious mind, observe, and analyzes. Now I told y'all that I was finna jump back into that so I can all bring this all together, right? So when you were a child, let me not say when you were a child, let's just talk about children in general. Children don't necessarily have a program during the early stages. Between the ages of 0 and 5, they don't have this portion of the mind yet. The program is being installed during the ages of 0 to 5. They don't have their habits, behaviors, beliefs, emotions, feelings. They don't have their values, their code of ethics, their intuition, their perceptions. None of that is in a child's mind yet, because it is being downloaded from the conscious mind, right? Because the conscious mind, we said, observes and analyzes. That's why when you see a kid, right, a young kid, and you hear them sing a song, or you hear them say something, or they say a cussing word, or they say something, where they get that from? I wonder where they learned that from. Who they get that from? That's because all that child is doing from the ages of 0 to 5 is observing and analyzing everything. Everything. If you ever watch a kid when you on the phone, a kid would sit up in your face and listen to your conversation, because they are in the process of observing and analyzing the way you speak, the way you react, your emotions. They're getting their version of, they're downloading their values, they're downloading their code of ethics, they're downloading their emotions, their beliefs, their habits, and their behaviors during this time. That's why when a child reaches 7 years old, 8 years old, That child is already programmed of how they finna be when they get older. Because they already spent years of observing and analyzing. And most of the time, the child is observing and analyzing from their parents. That's why when you look at a kid, you would say, boy, you act just like your daddy. Boy, you act just like your baba. I remember your baba. That's because that's what they observed and analyzed the whole beginning of their life. That's why they have the habits, behaviors, beliefs, emotions, and feelings of the person they observe, which is their parents, right? But not only does the mind observe and analyze everything that you see in all of your experiences, but it also observes and analyzes those bad experiences, right? Those traumatizing experiences, right? Those experiences with emotional impact, right? Those get programmed into the subconscious mind, and that is what's going to stop you from bringing your visualization into reality. Now, I'm finna get a little bit deep into that, right? Because your visualization has to compete with your subconscious mind. Now, I'm finna get a little deep into that, right? So, I want you to write this word down. We finna get deep. Now, this is the part where you need to start writing stuff down. I mean, you low-key should have been writing stuff down, but this is the part where you really need to start writing stuff down. I want you to write down the word fragmentation. Fragmentation. Jordan, what is fragmentation? What is fragmentation? Well, remember when I told you when you was a child, right? You all your experiences, including emotional impacts and traumas, get downloaded into your subconscious mind. Well, fragmentation is those experiences, or when you experience something, right? The mind records your thoughts. Hold on. The mind records your thoughts, your feelings, your physical sensation, your bodily inclination. I spelled that wrong. Forgive me. Bodily inclination. Oh, and one more. The visual. So, those emotional experiences that impact, or better known as traumas, right? Those things get recorded into your subconscious mind, right? And when they get recorded into your subconscious mind, the thoughts, the feelings, the physical sensation, the bodily inclinations, and the visuals that you experience during this trauma all gets recorded into the mind, right? And that's what fragmentation is. And I'm finna break that down in deeper details, right? And when I say record the thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, bodily inclinations, and the visuals, I'm finna break that down real quick. So when you were a child, right? When you were a child, let's say you were a child, right? And you had an outfit that you wanted to wear on the first day of school, right? You had your pants laid out, you had your shirt laid out, you had your shoes laid out, right? And you said, I'm finna kill them in the morning. I'm finna put on my new shoes, I'm finna put on my new clothes, I'm finna look good on the first day of school. You confident, you feeling good, you excited, you can't wait, right? Well, you put your outfit on, you put them new shoes on, your new pants on, your new shirt on, you go get on the bus, you feeling good, and as soon as you get to that school, them kids got to roasting you. Them kids got to teasing you. Them kids got to talking about your outfit, saying it looks terrible. You know, you thought you was looking good, you thought you was looking good. They roasting you saying, man, them shoes ugly, man, look at them pants, right? Well, this can be considered a trauma, emotional impacted experience, a trauma. Because now now you associating this, right? You're going through this experience, right? You're getting roasted, you're getting teased, you're getting made fun of. Now you're feeling shame, right? Now you're feeling embarrassment, right? And if nobody is there, right? If nobody is there to come to you in that exact moment and say, don't listen to them kids. They words don't mean nothing. They words don't define you. You look good. Your outfit is clean. If nobody is there to comfort you or guide you through that experience, your mind is going to do something called fragmentation, right? And fragmentation is, right, those thoughts you had when you were going through that, they're going to be recorded in one part of the brain. The feeling of shame and embarrassment that you had, those are going to be recorded in a different part of the brain. The physical sensation, right? Whether that's your heart was beating fast, your anxiety went through the roof, whatever that physical sensation was, that's going to be recorded in another part of the brain, right? Those bodily inclinations, you probably felt like you had to throw up. You probably felt dizzy. You probably felt like crying when you got roasted. That gets recorded in a different part of the brain. And the visual, you visualizing them kids laughing at you. The visual of them kids pointing and laughing. That gets recorded in another part of the brain. All of these things get recorded in different parts of the brain, and they are not really necessarily connected. That's what fragmentation is, right? And so when you go through the fragmentation stage, something called protective parts are born. Now I want you to write this down. Protective. Bro, y'all know I be having trouble spelling, bro. I be too passionate. Protective parts, right? Protective parts are born once the brain goes through the fragmentation phase, right? And protective parts are nothing but sub-personalities. That's all protective parts are sub-personalities, right? So, I know what you're saying. How does this all come into play? Well, when you got roasted at the school, right? When you got roasted at the school because you thought your outfit was clean, you thought you looked good, and them kids roasted you, and them thoughts that you had, right? Those feelings of shame and embarrassment, right? That physical sensation you had, the bodily inclination, the visuals, all those things that got recorded in different parts of the mind, right? Well, you're gonna adopt something called protective parts or a sub-personality, which you're gonna make your dominant personality, right? So the protective part really protects you from feeling that feeling of shame and embarrassment ever again. You don't never want to feel that embarrassment, that feeling of embarrassment or shame ever again. So what you do, that confident child that was once excited when he put them clothes on for school, it was confident, knew he looked good, and then he got to school and he got teased and he got roasted. Well, that confident version of them gets suppressed into the subconscious mind. It literally gets suppressed due to fragmentation, right? It gets suppressed, and then that protective parts are born, which is that sub-personality of shyness and cautiousness are now your dominant personality now. Because you never want to feel the shame and embarrassment again. Now, to avoid that ever happening to you again because it was so traumatic, now you're shy and you're cautious. So that confident you gets suppressed into your subconscious mind, right? Walk with me because this is all gonna make sense, right? That version of you gets suppressed into your subconscious mind, and your true identity is hidden, right? And that new shy, cautious you is now your new identity, right? So that right there alone is what's gonna stop your vision from coming to physical reality. That scenario, right? And when you were a kid, you probably had a lot of things, a lot of traumatic experiences that happened in your life that created a lot of fragmentation and a lot of protective parts, right? And I'm gonna get deeper into that because I'm gonna talk about my personal life and what I went through and the things that I did to overcome this, right? But like I said, you might have had a bunch of experience or emotional impacts or traumas that affected you, that made you start the fragmentation of the mind and adopt these new sub-personalities that are not really you. You only adopted them because you don't want to have them feelings again that you feel of shame, embarrassment, or whatever it was that you felt at that time. You don't want to go through that again. So you got these new sub-personalities that you adopted, right? Well, Jordan, how is this going to stop my visualization from coming into physical reality? Okay. Let me tell you. Let me tell you how it's going to stop. Because this all finna make sense. Let me tell you how it's finna stop. And you could watch so many videos on YouTube trying to break this down. But what sets me different from everybody else and me breaking this down is not only do I try to break it down in simple terms for you to understand, but I use real life experiences because I've really done this. I'm not like the rest of these people on YouTube that get up here and just talk and try to be inspirational and tell you all these things. And oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, and you got to manifest and all this other stuff. That's cool, right? But it's never it's never better to have the information come from someone who actually done it and who will use their real life personal experiences. And that's what sets me apart from everybody else. What I teach and what I'm telling you to do, I've actually done it. And that's why it means so much to me. And that's why I started really putting this content out, because I know that this stuff that I teach is actually work because I actually done it. I put boots on the ground. I put boots on the ground. I'm not just talking. I'm not one of those people that read books or watch videos or do this, that, and the third, and then try to come on camera and then try to talk about it. I've actually went through this. I went through so much of a mental transition and a spiritual transition that everything that I talk about, I've done for real. So that's why I get so passionate when I teach this. But let me break this down to you on a personal level, right? Let me break this down on a personal level. I was a fat kid, right? I was a fat kid. I got teased growing up, right? I got teased growing up. Kids used to roast me all the time. Boy, you fat as hell. You fat, bro. Look at you. Whoop the whoop. And don't get me wrong. I would try to tease back. I would try to, roast back and talk about them back. But that was just a masking. Deep down, my feelings was hurt. Deep down, my emotions were shot. Right? It was a emotional impact to me, an emotional experience. This was a trauma, me getting roasted, right? My beliefs, I got roasted so much for years of me being a fat kid. I had got roasted so much that I started to believe, dang, bro, maybe you is not attractive. You fat, brother, you is ugly. I started to believe what them kids were saying. That's how deeply rooted this was in my subconscious mind, right? Well, let's talk about my visualization, right? Well, if Jordan's visualization, if Jordan's visualization is be a speaker, host seminars, do lectures, meditation retreats, let me see what else is in my vision. Speaker, host seminars, do lectures, meditation retreats. We just gonna leave it for right there for right now. I ain't gotta break it down too much. We're just gonna leave this 4 up here right now, right? Well, if this is my visualization, right? And these are the things that I wanna do. This is my why, this is my purpose, right? This is my dream. These are my aspirations. This is what I wrote down in present tense. And this is what I relive in my mind every day saying, I'm gonna be this person and get to this person. Well, my subconscious mind is gonna stop this from coming into physical reality, right? Now, the reason why it's gonna stop this into coming into physical reality is because from those emotional impacted experiences, those traumas, right, of me getting roasted as a fat kid, that created insecurities. That created a lack of self-confidence. That created a fear of rejection. Right? Insecurities, lack of self-confidence, fear, rejection. What else? What else can I put on here? Insecurities. We're just gonna leave it right here. I'm not gonna make it too hard. I'm just not gonna make it too hard on me, right? So we're gonna keep it right here, just simple. If I'm struggling with insecurities, if I'm struggling with lack of self-confidence, if I'm suffering from fear, rejection, if I'm lacking self-love, right? Well, the person that I visualized in my vision, that speaker, that person that's going to host seminars all around the world, that person that's going to do lectures and speak all around the world, that person that's going to be hosting meditation retreats and have people come and do meditation and learn about divine energy and learning about frequencies and vibrations and me teaching that person that I visualize in my mind, when I look at that person, I look at me living in my fulfillment and I'm visioning me in present and I'm visualizing me living in my dreams and my destiny. That version of me doesn't have insecurities. That version of me doesn't lack self-confidence. That version of me doesn't have fear of rejection. That version of me doesn't lack self-love. And I got those things based off those traumatic experiences, right? Those emotional impacted experiences or those traumas that I experienced when I was a child. And when I experienced those situations as a child, my brain went through fragmentation, right? My thoughts, my body inclinations, my physical sensations, all of that got recorded in different parts of the brain, I started to develop protective parts. And those protective parts were shyness. Those protective parts were cautiousness. Those protective parts was, you ain't finna be seen in public. Just stay out the way. Don't approach nobody. Don't do this. But this version of me doesn't live like that. This version that I want to be doesn't suffer for any of that. I have to rewire that programming. That programming that I experienced, I have to rewire that, right? That's the only way that I'm going to bring my visualization into physical reality. That's why I say your subconscious mind is going to stop your visualization into coming into physical reality. Because if you're suffering from these, the version of you that you picture yourself to be in your visualization, if they're suffering from any of these things like this, it's not going to happen. Your subconscious mind is going to self-sabotage you every time. It's going to self-sabotage you every single time, right? And that's what you have to learn. Now, I know what you're going to ask me. Well, Jordan, how did you reprogram this? How did you reprogram this so you could become this version of yourself that you've seen in your visualization? How did you change this? Because like I said, I was roasted as a fat kid for years. So these things were deeply rooted into my subconscious mind. Deeply rooted. This is a core wound that I had to reprogram, right? It took time for me to reprogram this, right? And I know you're gonna ask, well, what did you do? Well, let me break it down. What did I do? Because I have to change this in order for this to become a physical reality, right? Man, I'm hoping this making sense to y'all, bro, because this is so passionate to me, because I actually done this, right? I actually done this. And that's why I'm like, bro, if y'all listen to me, I promise you I can get you there. Like I said, I'm not like the other people on YouTube that just talk. And sometimes it's hard for me to explain, and I try to teach it as best as I can. And sometimes it get hard for me to explain because this is not something that I'm just reading or watching videos and I'm trying to come talk about it. These are real life experiences that I went through, and I'm trying to explain to you what I've really done to get over these things, right? So sometimes it's hard for me to explain because I actually did it. It wasn't me just sitting down learning something. I actually went through this with trial and error. With trial and error, right? So let me not get off track. So what you do to change that, Jordan? Well, you have to reprogram your paradigm. This is basically what it is. And I want you to write that word down, paradigm. Now, a paradigm is nothing but a mental program that has control over your habits and behavior. The paradigm is a mental program that has control over your mind and behaviors, right? A paradigm is a mental program that has control over your mind and behaviors, right? Well, if we want to rewire or reprogram our paradigm, right, it starts with these things, right? And these things are, you first have to become aware, right? That's the first thing, awareness. Second step, admitting. Third step, accepting. Fourth, observe. Fifth, meditate. Journal. Right? And then last but not least, action. This is actually the most important part right here, action. I'm finna break all this down, right? And let me put on here on a side note, vent and feel. All right. So, in order for me to change those insecurities, that lack of self-confidence, that lack of self-love, that fear of rejection, all those sub-personalities that I adopted, or those protective parts that I adopted due to the traumatic, the fragmentation from those traumatic experiences or traumas, those emotional impacted experiences that I went through, right? I had to first become aware. Aware. That's the first step. Okay. I'm aware that I suffer with insecurities. I'm aware that I lack self-confidence. I'm aware that I lack self-love. I'm aware that I have fear of rejection, which stops me from approaching people or stops me from networking and talking, because I feel like the way I perceive, right? Because the subconscious mind, that's where your perception is, right? Well, I perceive that everybody views me as a fat kid. So I don't want to approach you because in my mind, I'm thinking you thinking I'm a fat kid, right? So my perception, my beliefs, you got to change your perception and your beliefs. My belief says I'm starting to believe, bro, you fat, you can't get a fine girl. You fat, you can't do this. You fat, you can't do that, and actually believe it, because you got roasted so much as a kid. It's deep into your subconscious mind. It's deeply rooted. You got roasted so much that your beliefs or your perception has changed. You got the fragmentation that went on. You got the protective parts that came up, right? Those sub personalities. Now I'm aware. I'm aware of it. Now you have to admit it. Now that you're aware, admit it. I'm aware that I have insecurities. Now I'm admitting it. Dang, bro. You got insecurities, fool. Bro, you got lack of self-love. Bro, you really got a lack of self-confidence. I'm admitting it. Then I have to accept it. Like, yeah, bro, just accept it, bro. Like, it is what it is. This is a part of you. Like, these are the things that you're not confident in. You're not confident in your self-confidence. You're not confident in your self-love. You're not confident in your fear of rejection. Like, I'm accepting it, right? And now that I accepted it, because that's the first part of trying to heal, you got to accept it. Aware, I'm aware of it. I'm admitting it. I got it. Now I'm accepting it, yeah. It's settling in now. Because this is what's going to start the healing process. This is what's going to start the reprogramming and the rewiring. Is accepting it. Now that you accepted it, now it's time to observe. When you get in those situations, for example, with me, I was a fat kid, I got roasted. Well, when I go out in public and it's packed and I'm by myself, it's packed. It could be beautiful girls everywhere, packed. My anxiety will go through the roof. My anxiety will go through the roof because of my beliefs and my perception. Right? Because of my beliefs and my perception from what is in my subconscious mind, right? So my anxiety goes through the roof. So I'm observing that. Okay, bro, I see this type of situation is where it flares up. Okay, I see over here, you talking to this girl, it's flaring up now. Now you get nervous, your hands are shaking, your words are jumbling up, right? You observing where you have these weak areas at. You observe, right? Because you want to observe so you know how to rewire and reprogram, right? You're already aware, you already admitted, and you already accepted. Now it's time to observe and take notes, right? So now that you got the observation done, now it's time to meditate and journal. When you meditate and you journal, you have to vent and feel it. If you have to cry, if you have to scream, anything you have to do, you have to vent and you have to feel it, because that's what's going to start the release. You have to I had to literally sit and meditate and allow that little kid in me that was getting roasted. I had to allow that little kid in me to vent. I had to release that. And I was able to release that through meditation and through journaling. You got to vent. You have to let it out. You have to release. That's key. But you can't get to this part until you are aware, you admit it, you accept it, and now you observe. Then you can get to the point to where you can try to release. You have to vent and feel it so you can let it out. You cannot let that hinder you, because if it hinders you, that visual that I had of me talking around the world, me doing lectures, me doing all of that, it's never going to come into fruition if I continue to suffer with insecurities, if I continue to suffer with self-confidence, if I continue to suffer with lack of self-love, fear, rejection, any of those things that I dealt with from those traumatic experiences, right? Or those beliefs and perceptions that are embedded into my subconscious mind. I have to change all of that in order for me to bring my visualization into physical reality. That's why this part is so important. That's why that's why this is the hardest part, because you are literally fighting your mind. You are fighting your programming. It's hard to reprogram something that is in habit. You have to force yourself to reprogram this, rewire this, and change your beliefs and change your perception so it can align with the person that you vision to be. Oh, I'm hoping it's making sense. Y'all get passionate. Now, the last part, which is the most important part, because after you done meditated, the journal, invented, and started to release the process, now it's time to do the action. Now I have to get confident in my fear. Now I have to get confident in my lack of self-confidence. Now I have to get confident in my lack of self-love, right? I have to get confident in my insecurities, right? Well, self-confidence, I dropped a video about this. If you go on my YouTube and look, I dropped a video about self-confidence, and I told y'all that self-confidence is not only an action, but it is a skill. It's a skill that can be learned, practiced, and strengthened, right? You have to put your body through discomfort repeatedly, over and over and over and over and over again. That's the only way that discomfort is going to turn to comfortability, because you did it so many times over and over and over again. It's no longer discomfortable to you. It's no longer discomfortable to you. So explain that, Jordan. Well, if I know when I go out in public, my anxiety go up, right? Because of my fear of rejection, right? Because of my beliefs and my perception of how I think people view me, right? Well, we finna start going out to eat. Matter of fact, we finna go out by yourself, right? And we're gonna go out and we're gonna try to stay off our phone. I did that, right? I used to go out. I said, man, the only way I can get over this and overcome this is I gotta do it, right? Think of it like this. Before I even get into that, think of it like this. This is a good example. Think of it like this. The spirit is talking to me. Hold on. When you drive in a car, when you first got behind the wheel of a car, when you was 15, 16, whatever age you was, you had your driver ed teacher next to you, your mama, your daddy, your cousin, whoever it was teaching you how to drive, you had them next to you. You got both hands on the steering wheel, right? You checking your mirrors, you checking your blinkers, your driver ed teacher, your mama, them probably on the next to you getting on. You're like, make sure you got your seatbelt on. All right, step on the brake. It's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking. It's uncomfortable. This is your first time driving. And you know, the driver's ed teacher, your mama and your daddy, they making it more uncomfortable because they yelling at you. Hey, make sure you step on your brakes. All right, put it in drive. Now ease on the gas a little bit. It's uncomfortable. But think about it like this. You continue to do it repeatedly over and over and over again. Now, if you go down years down the line, or you driving, you went from first being behind the wheel of a car, nervous, uncomfortable. Now look at you. Now you driving with your seat leaned back. You got one hand on the steering wheel. Now you driving with the music loud. You bumping your music. You no hands on the steering wheel when you driving. Matter of fact, you got so confident, you telling everybody around you, man, they can't even drive. I'm the best driver out here. Can't nobody drive like me. Just ride with me. I can get you there. I drive. You swinging through lanes and everything. But just about 15, 20 years ago, you was scared behind the wheel of a car. You was nervous. But that's because you did it over and over and over and over and over and over and over repeatedly. Now that applies to this as well. That discomfort you felt when you went out to the club by yourself. When I went out to the club, that discomfort I felt when I went out to the club by myself, and my anxiety went through the roof because of the lack of self-confidence and all that I suffer from, those insecurities. I put myself through that over and over and over and over and over again until I got comfortable. I kept doing it. And then I kept upping the uncomfortableness. I don't even know if that's a word, but I just made it up. I kept upping it. Now when I go in here into this club or to this venue, or whatever by myself, now instead of me just standing around, now we finna go talk to one person. Now we finna go talk to one or two people. Step out your comfort zone. That's the only way I'm gonna bring that version of me into reality. I can't continue to suffer from the things. I have to reprogram this. You're not gonna reprogram this just based on meditating and journaling and venting and then being aware and meaning, accepting and observing. You can do all of this, but you still gonna suffer from this. You have to put in action. Nothing is going to change unless you do action. You can't To reprogram anything, there's an action that has to take place. So whatever it is in your life that is embedded in your subconscious mind that's going to stop your visual into coming into physical reality, you have to do these things, but most importantly, do the work. You have to do. That's the only way you're going to change your paradigm. That's the only way you're going to reprogram that mental program that controls your mind and behaviors. Man, I hope this makes sense to y'all, man, because this is important. You're not going to bring your visualization into physical reality unless you reprogram those subconscious mind. And most of the things that are embedded in your subconscious mind or programmed in there is most of the stuff that happened from when you were a kid. Now, don't get me wrong. You do learn new stuff over time, right? That gets embedded in your subconscious minds, because you got to remember that's where your habits and your behavior lies. So there is stuff that you do over and over. That's another thing that I need to say about action. You could do something so much over and over and over again, subconsciously, it becomes a part of your habits and behaviors. That's the same way that you can do it with reprogramming, putting your body through that discomfort over and over and over and over again until it subconsciously gets embedded in your mind and changes your habits and your behaviors to align with that version of you that you're trying to be. Because you can vision all day, you can do the 3 pillars of execution all day, you can try to get all those things to align that we talked about, the mind, spirit, emotions, all that to align, and you can try to do all of this, but it's not going to work until you put the action in to reprogram this. That's why this is the hardest part, because it forces you to face those feelings, those emotions, and those things that you suppressed when you were a child, that you suppressed into your subconscious mind. You have to bring those things from the subconscious mind into the conscious mind, right? And you have to consciously reprogram and rewire those things. Man, I hope that makes sense to y'all, man. I really hope it do, because I'm trying my best to try to explain this the best as I can, right? Now, another thing you need to know about paradigm is, and I got this written down on my cards, paradigms controls your vibration. And we're going to get deeper into vibrations and frequencies in part 5. Either part 5 or part 6. Part 4 is going to be about getting out of survival mode. Part 5, it will probably be about frequencies and vibrations. So we'll talk about more about frequencies and vibrations in part 5. But your paradigm controls your vibration. You got to remember, when I said in part 1, I said that we are divine. Divine energy created this universe. Everything in this universe have energy. Everything, the desk, the computer, this board, this marker, these lights, everything has energy. You have energy. Your body has enough energy to power a whole city. You have divine energy that flows through you, right? And we know that energy functions on frequencies, and frequencies is levels of vibrations. And your paradigm controls your vibrations. And I'm gonna get deeper and deeper and deeper into that when we get to part 5, like I said. But part 3, you need to understand how the mind works. We talked about the conscious mind. That's the thinking mind. We talked about the subconscious mind. That is the program that the user uses, that the computer uses. This is your program. This is really you. This is where your habits, your emotions, your beliefs, your intuition, your perceptions, your experiences. This is the part of the mind you use 90 to 95% of the time. And this is the mind that houses all your traumas, all your emotional impacted experiences, right? This is the part of the mind that you adopt those sub-personalities or those protective parts, right? Because of fragmentation from those traumatic events or those emotional impacted experiences, right? And in order for me to reprogram those sub-personalities or the protective parts that I adopted and made my main personalities, because those personalities are going to stop my vision to come into physical reality, we have to reprogram the paradigm, right? And that's being aware, admitting, accepting, observe, meditate, journal, vent, feel it, cry, scream, whatever it is to release, do it. Release and then take action to start the reprogramming. Because you can do all this, but unless you take action and repeatedly do it over and over and over and over again to where it becomes a new habit, a new behavior, a new belief, it's not going to work. So you have to do this in order for your visualization to come into physical reality. And this part right here, doing this part right here helps you understand, or it starts the process of you stepping into your higher awareness, stepping into your higher consciousness, because you are becoming aware of the things that you suppressed in the back of your subconscious mind. The part 1 and part 2, right, of the visualization, the alignment, the 3 pillars of execution, all of that is just understanding your divinity, understanding that you are divine, understanding that whatever you put your mind to, you can bring it to physical reality. But this part right here, which is 80% of you stepping into your divine consciousness, this is 80% of you stepping into your divine consciousness. This right here is the part that you really have to focus on. Man, I hope that made sense, man. I tried to break this down as best as I can, man. So if y'all got any questions, please leave them in the comment. If I didn't explain something right, please leave it in the comments. If you need me to go over something else again, please leave it in the comments. But I hope this video helped you kind of understand about the subconscious mind and what it does and how to reprogram and rewire that so you could become the best version of you, so you can reach your higher frequency, your higher vibration, your higher self. So like I said, if you can like, share, and subscribe, man, that I would greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I thank you for your time, man. And please come back for part 4. Part 4 we'll be talking about getting out of survival mode. That's another important part. You have to get out of survival mode. But we'll talk about that in the next part, man. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a nice day.